Inside is a game that begins with you on the outside and ends with, I'm still not sure. So there's this problem, unique to video games. It's difficult to present a critique of them in the same way as traditional media because they aren't designed to be shown to an audience, they're designed to be played. And Inside wants you to play it while feeling on edge. In a review video, edited and broken up like this, I worry that the sense of discomfort and panic felt while playing the game won't come through strongly enough. Which is a shame because it's a big part of the game and something Playdead have worked to achieve. Much like Playdead's previous title, Limbo, Inside forgoes a traditional narrative to produce something of a mood piece. The game is set in the future, the main character is being hunted, but by whom and for what purpose is never really explained, though there are enough environmental clues dropped for you to come up with your own theory. For now, let's start with the opening and everything it does to disrupt the player's idea of how a game should play. The game begins on the title screen and will hang there until a key is pressed, at which point our protagonist slides down the rock face. I love this opening because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting a menu screen to appear, but instead we go straight in, and better than that, we're joining a story already in progress. Our character was already in motion, already on the run, and we, the player, have no idea why. Inside starts you on the back foot and wants to keep you there for as long as possible. The boy stands hunched, sometimes looking around nervously. The trees around him are huge, lost off the top of the screen, making the boy look small and vulnerable by comparison. They sometimes appear in the foreground, blocking the player's vision, much like in Limbo. The first man-made structure encountered is a barrier with barbed wire wrapped around it. As if that wasn't enough to tell us we shouldn't be here, the boy immediately crouches to hide from the first other character we see. The gameplay takes place on a linear 2D path, but this first threat we encounter is in the background of a 3D world, again serving to upset the player's idea of what goes within this game world. Playdead wants us to be as nervous as the boy is, because many of the puzzles would seem repetitive, maybe boring, without the sense of panic that goes with them. And the way they do that is by constantly having us question our assumptions, the things we've learned from playing other games. Assumptions like, all games will have menu screens, 2D platformers will have gameplay elements only on a 2D space, and pig carcasses are just for decoration. The game appears as one continuous level, without loading screens, but there are transitions between areas, and these often come in unexpected ways, even if it's just a sudden drop. I've read theories that the boy is trying to sneak into the facility encountered at the game's end, but I disagree. We start with a sense of him being hunted, and so often new sections are encountered by accident as he tries to get out of the previous one without looking where he's going. Having the player on edge adds to many of the later puzzles because so many of them are timed just right that the player will make it to safety at the last possible moment. Limbo did something similar, often asking the player to wait in precarious situations before giving them the next piece of a puzzle. But Inside is slightly different. Limbo, I believe, wanted to keep the player on the edge of death, to reflect the eponymous world the game was set in. Inside, however, is about escape. The difference, mechanically, is that once the player begins an escape sequence, they're encouraged to keep moving until they're safe again, whether that means backtracking to lead enemies away or sprinting as fast as they can. It's rare they're asked to sit still. There is a puzzle section early on in the game where the player must remain still to hide from spotlights, but this only teaches the mechanics, so it may be used again later, in sections where the player has to move to stay in shadow. Checkpoints are frequent, so there's little penalty to dying. This is at odds with the game's overall mood of panic and fear, so to bring that feeling back a little, the death animations have a gritty realism to them. They are not pleasant, and knowing the boy's fate makes you try a little harder to avoid it next time. For the most part, I think this works well, though it does assume the player will only need 1 or 2 attempts at a puzzle before finding the solution. In the one section I just couldn't figure out, dying over and over eventually just led to frustration. Generally, by having the puzzles relatively simple for a calm mind to figure out, any section where the fear starts to fade can be overcome quickly, so the player can move on to the next set of dangers. This video and this series are about how mechanics reflect themes, and thank God, because I don't want to try to explain the specifics of the plot. But one thing it does bring up a number of times, and becomes extremely important in the game's final act, is the idea of bodies as tools. It starts with animals at first, using friendly chicks to knock a bale of hay off a beam, then pigs as stools. But this is only to achieve the final stage, using the strange new technology to control mindless workers. What underlines the importance of this technology in the game's pseudo-story is that this is the first future tech we see. Yeah, the threatening strangers wearing masks in the woods were surrounded by giant metal tanks, but there was nothing to really suggest what they were for. The mind control helmets are the only truly sci-fi technology used by the boy in the game. There's an assumption I made at this point, that the strangers in the woods wanted the boy to turn him into one of these things. Later I thought my assumption incorrect, as this game likes to subvert assumptions. The boy seems aware of his surroundings, he feels fear and pain, which the husks do not. And eventually we learn that these bodies are grown in a facility. During one section, a dog sniffs the boy out from a lineup of workers, possibly a sign that he is not one of them. But later we see that mind control helmets can be nested. The first user can send a drone into a second helmet, controlling a second worker. So what if they were nested already? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that the boy himself is a drone, much of it uncovered during the later stages of the game, which I don't want to spoil here for anyone who hasn't played. For me, from my playthrough, I wasn't convinced either way, but then I never found the secret ending from unlocking all the achievements. Unlike Limbo, within the game world there is a definite answer to this question. The world is so compelling, so rich in flavour that it feels believable, but as players we will never know for sure. Like the boy controlling the drones to move him forwards without knowing what's ahead, we the players are controlling the boy without knowing what he's leaving behind.